Hey everybody, this is Professor Jason Snart. I am your instructor for English 2250 online here, the Intro to Creative Writing course in the 5-week term here at COD or virtually wherever you happen to be. Just recording this little screen capture video with my audio over top, which is a little nasally and congested because I've just had bad allergies recently. So I'll apologize for that up front, but I just wanted to do a little welcoming you to the course and the video part to sort of guide you through some of the more important pieces of our course, I guess. The first thing to note is that, as you already know, hopefully it's a 5-week term. So that means that we take the usual 16 weeks and compress it into 5. So you can imagine how much more quickly we have to move, basically 3 times as fast. So what we might do in, a week in a 16-week class is compressed down to a day or two as far as the work done and then due dates in the 5-week term. So that's sort of the glass half empty, the challenging part. The good news is that if you really block out this 5 weeks to focus on this class or other classes that you're doing, and not this class and a million other things you're trying to accomplish in the summer, the time does go quite quickly. So if you can stay focused for this much shorter span of time rather than an entire semester, you can be successful in the class, in any online class. But you do have to stay really on top of things. And so it's good to get oriented as soon as possible, especially if you're not used to online classes or Blackboard, or whatever the case might be, or even just the layout of this particular class. Although I've tried to make an effort to make it as, I guess, transparent, as easy to navigate as possible, so you're not getting hung up when you're trying to do the work for the class. You're not getting hung up just trying to find stuff and figure out how the components work together and all that kind of stuff. So obviously there's the usual, I'll go back one step here. The announcements page is obviously the landing place for this course. It's blank as you're looking at it on this video, but of course you're watching the video on the announcements page once I post it. So you'll always see new announcements or new material here, not in terms of course content or work that you have to do, but I'll do video announcements throughout, maybe little text reminders and that kind of thing. So nothing sort of teaching-wise here, but certainly lots of reminders about due dates, about certain points within units to make sure you're accounting for, and all of that kind of stuff. So be sure that when you see these new announcements, you're watching videos or reading things in full. And I guess connected with how compressed our course is, you probably do need to budget time almost every day to log into Blackboard. Maybe not even to do a bunch of work, but just 5 or 10 minutes here and there to make sure there's not a new announcement. And I always like going into the due dates just to kind of remind myself of when those are. So you'll notice that we have units 1 and 2 coming up Friday due, but also looking a little bit ahead, because of course ahead, relatively speaking, for our 5-week term is usually just a couple of days around the corner. It's not really like a week or 2 weeks away. So it's good to see what's due when, right? Unit 1 and 2 due Friday, and then notice 3 and 4 are bundled together as well. So to get everything in for our class, we've needed to double up a couple of units. I've also done that to give us a little bit more time for what is really the heart of our class, the workshop, which means that you'll be writing, in this case, like a piece of fiction, so a short story, later on creative nonfiction, later on poetry, so we cover a bunch of genres, and then submitting that to a group of your peers within the class and getting feedback. And that, to me, is really the heart of this class. You sort of being forced to produce work in those variety of genres and then getting feedback. And it's important to note that the feedback that you'll get primarily in the course is not from me. I'll obviously assign a grade to it, but the feedback that you get for the most part is really from your group members. And there's a lot of material in terms of how the workshops work, how to provide feedback, and that kind of stuff built into the course. And I'll review those as we get closer, but I'm always available if you want more personalized feedback. But again, the heart of our course is really those workshops. So to go back to the point, though, more immediately, you'll notice that we pack a lot, say, up front in terms of these first units to give a little bit of more turnaround time for some of the workshop stuff. So the due dates, you'll also see a calendar built in here. Yours will look a little different from mine because it populates with any courses that you're doing that have used the calendar feature. But you'll always see our 2250 due dates here. So you can always check the calendar. The due dates listed in the due dates tab and the calendar tab should be the same, but they're not automatically linked. So if I change one or maybe just put one in wrong, you know, they might not line up. So if you see that or any other kind of mistake in the course, even if it's just a basic typo or a link that doesn't work or whatever, make sure you contact me right away. You can see my contact info here. Email is always the best. Skype is really good as well. So I'm always, if I'm in the office, I'm online. So you'll see me there if you're on Skype. So we can communicate, whether it's a video call, audio, just an instant message, anything like that. So I try to be really available for students, especially, again, online, so you feel like you actually have somebody out here who cares about what's going on. But also in the 5-week term, if you have a question or something's not working right, you really need me to respond pretty much right away, right? If a couple days goes by, that's, again, like a week in a regular course, which I would never do. So don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll try to get back with you, more or less right away, as soon as possible. Okay, our due dates then coordinate with the units where all of the class work is, of course. So just clicking into the various folders here. In this case, there's a couple of different assignments that we're doing within Unit 1. I've tried to make it step by step with screenshots so you sort of know what you're looking for. Make sure you read carefully all of the instruction material before just jumping down to the what you have to do piece. What else was I going to say? The other thing then is, again, in an effort to make things sort of manageable, just chunked nicely on the screen so you're not scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, that has meant putting things into multiple, in some cases, subfolders. So just be aware that if you're in Unit 1 and you're doing, let's say, this folder, if you complete that work, you want to be careful, and there's actually a reminder here, that you don't think you've completed Unit 1, you just completed that folder within Unit 1. So you can use what's called the breadcrumbs up here to go kind of backwards, back to that Unit 1 to make sure you can get into this, right, the next piece of the unit, or back to the whole units list. And you could do that through the top breadcrumbs here. You can do it through our course menu. So often there's multiple ways to get to the pieces of the course. But basically, you'll just be following the due dates, right, as they're listed here, and then working through the unit content, whether it's discussion board material, readings, videos to watch, obviously the writing that you're doing, and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, hopefully it's relatively clear. Here's our first reading from our textbook, for example. Yeah, so one of the most important things, I think, is in terms of being successful online is to just get familiar and comfortable with the environment you're in here. If you're endlessly clicking around looking for things, not understanding when things are due and how to find the work you're supposed to be doing, that I know gets really frustrating because I've been a student on the other end of that. And it also gets in the way, obviously, of doing the actual work and doing it well, which is obviously the focus of what you're doing here. Okay. So you can also take a look at, of course, the grading breakdown. One of the things to notice is that although it's a creative writing course, there's really not a lot of grading that's done on how quote-unquote good or bad your writing is. So if you're feeling a bit nervous because you've really never done creative writing before, or you're more of a short story person and not poetry, or you did it a long time ago, or you did it in high school and want to try it again, but you're not really sure about that, the points for the class are largely just reflecting whether you've followed the directions for the assignments, and then whether you've done things A, on time, and B, in the case of workshop, provided meaningful feedback to your workshop participants. So you'll be in groups and you're exchanging, whatever creative writing you're doing. So even if your writing isn't great, whatever that would even mean, that's pretty subjective. It's still really a great course, because the points are really not about how, again, like subjectively good or bad your writing is. It's just about the effort you make to, again, follow instructions, do things on time, and again, invest in that workshop experience that I'll talk a little bit about later. So hopefully that's good news for those of you, especially who are maybe a little bit hesitant about your own writing. And again, it's a challenge, especially with creative writing. It's not just some academic essay that someone's reading. Oftentimes our creative writing is very, if not only is it personal to us, but we're kind of invested emotionally in it, even if it's not about us or about a real thing necessarily. It's kind of a piece of us out there. So we need to sort of respect the fact that, or at least I don't want to put myself in the position of having to grade that directly. Now, obviously, you can't turn in just a page of junk and hope that passes muster, but I'm assuming that because you took this class, you're interested in, producing creative writing, so you don't want to skirt the system somehow. Again, my contact is down here if you want to be in touch with me. The first things to do then, really take a look at those due dates in the calendar. Take a look at just all the units. You don't have to click into them, but just sort of see how things are laid out, right? And then start in with units 1 and 2, which are due really just in a couple of days, all right? So it's good meeting you, sort of, right? I'll meet you a little bit more on your end of it in the introductions unit here. And again, if you have any questions or concerns or things just don't look the way you think they should, by all means, be in touch with me right away. All right, I'll talk to you soon.